Have you ever noticed that in so many French bistro classics, you have this deep, savory flavor that just makes you want to eat more and more? Well, you might be surprised to know that there actually is a common ingredient in a lot of these dishes, and it's a huge part of what makes them so delicious. Just take the words of Auguste Escoffier, the godfather of French cuisine. He said that this class of ingredients serves a supreme role in the kitchen. They constitute the fundamental base, without which nothing serious can be undertaken. And that's coming from the man they call the king of chefs, chef of kings. What is this magical class of ingredients? Stock. More specifically, brown stock, or fond brun. And now, I'm going to show you how I make it and how I store it for future use. Again, fond brun translates to brown stock. And today I'll be making one of the most common and best forms of fond brun de veau, lié, or thickened veal stock, sometimes referred to as demi-glace. So the first and most important ingredient here is veal bones. Ideally, you want some bones with a decent amount of collagen. Over the cooking process, that collagen will go through a molecular transformation, turning into gelatin, which gives our stock that great jelly texture when we reduce it down. Things like neck bones are great, or any area with lots of joints or connective tissue. Now, if you're averse to veal bones or you just can't find any near you, I've left a link to a food wishes video in the description of a remarkably similar version using just chicken and beef. Now spread those veal bones out onto a baking sheet or a roasting pan and roast them at around 425 Fahrenheit or about 220 Celsius until they're very brown, probably about an hour and a half. For our vegetables, we have 2 yellow onions, roughly chopped or wedged, 2 or 3 carrots cut into large pieces, a few small tomatoes just cut in half, as well as a couple heaping tablespoons of tomato paste. Lastly, some peeled garlic that I'll just reserve on the side. Some of you may be wondering, why no celery? Because I don't want any celery. Alright? About 60 minutes into roasting the veal bones, or once they're quite brown, add the vegetables to the pan, mix them in a bit, and continue roasting for another 30 to 45 minutes. When they're done, they should look like this, very intensely brown. So much so that we're flirting with burnt, but not quite there. Time to get out our big old pot and dump everything in. At this point, I like to add a couple bay leaves, that garlic we peeled earlier, and some whole black peppercorn. Remember to deglaze your roasting pan to free those caramelized sugars and juices stuck to the bottom. That's precious flavor we must not waste. Now fill the pot with plenty of cold water, making sure to leave some clearance between the surface and the bones, because some of the liquid will evaporate and we want to make sure everything remains covered as we let this gently simmer for no less than 8 hours. That's right, not up to 8 hours, no less than 8 hours. This is definitely one of those the longer the better scenarios. So crank that heat up, bringing this to a boil, and then immediately lower it to reach that very gentle simmer. I don't typically add a bouquet garni, a traditional French bundle of herbs. Instead, I infuse the stock with an herbal flavor at a later step using a technique that our friend Alex Zinka taught me. And now, just to figure out what to do with the next 9 hours of my life. 9 hours later, and I'm left with what looks like a cauldron of bubbling stew straight out of Davy Jones's locker. That's exactly what I want. We'll fish out the bones and veggies using a spider or a slotted spoon, and then set them in a strainer over a bowl. You'll notice these bones are completely bare. There's not one bit of meat or connective tissue left on them. We've extracted all the flavor they have, and all that collagen has become gelatin in our liquid. A key point for our next step, reduction. So I thank these bones for their sacrifice before I discard them, then I add that liquid back to our pot, bring the stock up to a nice rolling boil, as it is time to let this reduce by at least half. The more this reduces, the more gelatinous and concentrated it will become, allowing us to portion it and store it more easily later. You'll see what I mean. Now that this is reduced by about half, I'll strain it twice. Once through a normal colander into which I've placed a sprig of thyme and a sprig of rosemary. This is how Alex taught me to add a gentle herbal aroma without being overpowering.
And we'll pass it once again through a fine mesh strainer.
At this point, it's very important we cool our stock quickly. Otherwise, some bacteria could form and we're gonna have a really bad time. I don't think you want any more details. All right, stay with me here, we're almost there. Set this into some ice water, allowing it to come to room temperature before placing it in the fridge to cool. A bit later, take it out and you'll be able to easily scrape off the excess fat with a spoon. Now just look at how gelatiny it's become. To store it, I just heat it up briefly to liquefy it and pour it into these great big ice cube trays. Cover them up, stow them away, and voila, A gorgeous cube of perfection. Now there are so many great ways to put this to use. If you want to know my absolute favorite way though, check out this video right here. I'll see you there. Peace.